So, where we are today is we are creating a new webinar series to work with the members of the GAN, so we can actually build a community around the preparations for our campaign. We can use this for sharing information with yourselves. We can actually organize our planning, and we can review content which is going to be created between ourselves, so that you can use it on your social channels, and how we can actually use this with the rest of the network. We've been running a few webinars already with our GAN networks. So far, we started in August and we've had some in September and yesterday. We have made these available as recordings as well, with some more tips and tricks and resources on our website, and we will send you the details to access this later so you can actually see what we've been telling them. We now have quite a community, and we would really appreciate you, where you can, joining with the local events that these groups of people are doing, but also encouraging them as we go forwards with more content and access to apprentices that exist within inside your own organizations. On this page, you'll also find the details of the timings that we're doing for our campaign. And we've had a list of the video testing tools and the winners that we've had in our recent testing. We've asked the national networks if they could test the tools again, just to make sure they are fully working from every country that the GAN is operating in. And once we get back the clarification, we're assured we can actually use this tool as we go forwards with our campaign. So the reason we're looking at a campaign are threefold, but the main premise we have is that apprenticeship is one very proven, effective way of employment and careers. The campaign itself, as you may have seen in the pre-read, is structured around three core elements. The network focus to start with, which is a dedicated week, allowing each of the GAN networks to show what they have done, their history of since they've been in operation, who the local members and partners are, as well as their global members which are joining in that country, the successes that the changes they are bringing about in the country are having, so whether these are new numbers of apprentices, legislation changes, changing the stigma, whatever the actual success is to drive towards the goal of better apprenticeships, and also the hopes that they will have for moving forwards and how apprenticeship is going to change in their country for the better. We have also an event or two that we will be holding during the year. These are both in-person events and online events. These are being practiced by the national networks and by ourselves from the Secretariat in Geneva. A key one to focus will be the World Apprenticeship Day, and this is scheduled for the 11th of June. More details on that will be arriving through these webinars as we structure the exact theme that we'll be using next year. And finally, we have a global video competition. So this is an example of what we have been testing so far. We've had a couple of uploads from different groups at the moment, and there is a second testing of this tool available at the moment, which we can give you the link to. The video competition itself is one of our main vehicles across social media, for creating new ideas and new stories around apprenticeship to actually show how powerful it is locally in human-focused stories. So we're following through on a number of different levels. The competition itself will have some voting and judging, and will run from beginning of December until approximately October, November time in 2019, when the main set of judging and voting will actually take place. All of these sections of the competition will actually function simply on the tools, and we are using a number of different steps and channels to make sure that we are re-emphasizing the message and encouraging it as it goes through the year. A key component itself will be the focus week that we have per network, where any of the apprenticeship videos we have for that country and by industry sectors are highlighted specifically across all of the social media channels that we have from the Secretariat and also locally in country to give the clear option that apprenticeship is a viable career path. Towards the end of the year then, in October, we will have the voting, and then the final decision will be made by the GAN Executive Board at the board meeting in November 2019 as to who the winners are that will benefit from the key prizes and also the coaching prizes that we're expecting. And of course, all of this will be followed up with a wrap-up at the end of the year featuring the key winning videos, the key apprentices that we've actually had at the 60th anniversary. So as mentioned, we have this testing version of the video competition available at the moment. We would like everybody to actually have a quick look and just try. The voting period will actually begin later on this evening, but it is still time for submissions of a quick video that you may have lying around on your phone, just to show that it's actually functioning and we have some interest from the teams around the world, so it's actually showing the capabilities correctly. If there are any feedback specifically on the functionalities that you're actually seeing, if you're having difficulties, we would like to know, because the more eyes looking at this, it is the better for us. And a second point we'd like people to check is having a look at the terms and conditions and the type of format, whether this is too long, too wordy, unclear, as this is having to go for a legal review. We would like the clearest competition rules we can apply. So with our campaign, the 5th of December is the official launch for the GAN's birthday. We are running a number of more sessions. We are planning and we're organizing between ourselves, and we would like you to be involved in the next follow-up webinars that we'll be having, where we're able to share the plans in more detail that have come from the national networks, but also capture what type of content contributions we can realistically expect from yourselves to help each of the networks where you happen to have a location. So we're running with only 63 days until our launch, so it's a little bit of a timely position that we have today. And specifically from yourselves, we would like to know by the 6th of November what your launch plans would be for how you can amplify our own messages across your own social properties. The 22nd of October will be our next meeting, and invitations will be sent out this week for the rest of these dates, so they will be in your calendars. If there is a problem with timing, we were expecting to keep the 4 o'clock timeline from Switzerland as the best time for meetings, but please let us know and we will see what we can do to accommodate different time zones as is required. The order of the national networks for the campaign has now been fixed and is now scheduled. We are in discussions a lot more with Costa Rica at the moment to make sure that we have fine-tuned exactly how they will function, and they will be used as the example case for other networks as we move forwards during the campaign. There will be more details as these emerge, as we keep working on it, and this is a very fluid and growing way of actually handling things. To help out on this a bit further, we've also created a playbook which is now available to all people. It has been under consultation with some of our networks for first feedback. Again, as members and your corporate communications teams, but also from your aspects of corporate responsibility and marketing, if there are any elements that you would check over on there and let us know are unclear or could do with some more detail, we would greatly appreciate that. The website version of the playbook is the one that we'll be updating most often, depending on how things evolve during the year. But coming up to this period, we're quite certain that we can add in new resources and new help guides and downloads for our networks to actually be using for our branding. We're expecting the corporate teams and the members to also use the same sort of branding and information we have available, but obviously tailoring it to the exact sector and the exact business need that we have. So we began our main preparations in March this year, and we walked through a number of steps to arrive at the creation of content at the moment. We have a limited team within the Secretariat, so we are looking around with people for assistance of what content they have we can reuse, how we can actually organize things. And in the playbook, we have some steps for helping to create the type of content we're looking for, but also how to share this back with the Secretariat here so that this can be made available to networks and we can all move forward from the same position. We've actually aligned a complete campaign plan and editorial plan for the next 15 months. This is just an overview of some of the teaser options we're running up until the launch in December. As this evolves, people will be kept up to date, but the main dates are locked in for the networks, the main key events that the GAN is supporting, and we would like very much to hear back from yourselves as to what key events exist for your own organizations, specifically with a focus on apprenticeship, so we can make sure these are aligned in our planning and everybody is aware of them so we can actually amplify our messages correctly. This plan itself is available online for a download, and people can see what we're planning in the actual week dates, the different channels we're using, so that it will become fairly easy and clear to align this with your own corporate calendars as you move forwards through the year. So a typical week has a number of different events. These are the main channels that we are actually using from the Secretariat. Not all our networks use these, and we may be expanding during the year with Instagram and or Snapchat, depending on how the advocacy is actually running. To help with the messaging that we are expecting you to help us with during the year, we have 3 key target groups. Each of these we have organized some key messages that we would like to be published. Again, this depends exactly on your own corporate direction and your business sector as to which ones fit, but we believe that we've got a reasonable grouping that can actually be used. Where we have networks all over the country, our main 3 corporate languages are English, French, and Spanish, and we would like to reuse these corporate messages and key messaging in the 3 languages to keep some consistency with the GAN coverage. We have decided that, in a simple way of explaining, there are 3 main content groupings. So we have editorial content, which is going to be inspiring. We have extremely good photos, which we can use on our own social media channels, on print materials, on billboards, wherever else. And we also have video content that we're wanting to use to explain things clearly to people. Each of these 3 are linked to 3 target groups. So we have to be aware of gender balance, we have to aim for youth, and we also have to aim for the business community like yourselves. So where we are creating content and where we can borrow content from you, we would like it to actually fit with these 3 different areas so that we're consistent across the planet and we have a way of reusing this content in a simple way. All of the pieces of content we are running, we will be managing the analytics from our own tools. We would also like to actually work with you going forwards and have a regular touch point to make sure that the messaging is actually reaching its target. So having access to your own tools and your own insights as to how these messages are being received will be very welcome, so we can tailor the actual target audiences and what we're saying during the campaign for best effect. And a final vehicle that we're actually wanting to establish is an alumni. Now, an alumni in many people's notions is a grouping of people that have gone to university together or have actually gone through training in some way. We're taking this concept and expanding it across our own secretariat here with our changes of staff that we've had over the years, across the national networks in the same way. And we would like to reach out to members as well, so that where you have people that have been engaged in the mission and are impassioned by the subject, they could actually be an alumni member as well, so that we can extend our emphasis and impact across the social network. The main things that the alumni will do are following briefings that we will actually be able to provide about our work, but also post and retweet and share across social media channels, to actually participate in real life events, so that we have members and numbers that can actually speak passionately about the role of apprenticeship and how this has changed the working area. To network with people that are actually meeting and generate additional leads, so we can have the following on of member gets member inside the GAN to expand our reach and our corporate messaging. And in some cases, to supply us with thought leadership where we have experts in the subject matter that we want to stay in touch with. Overall, the alumni is to be a community so that it is living and working, and we can really use what we know best and actually change for the good. So with the alumni, we were grouping it with 4 different types of people, as we mentioned. People that have worked with the GAN directly at the Secretariat and have global contacts, with our networks around the world, similar way with local contacts, and specifically with yourselves as members. So here it is depending on your HR policies and the way that you actually maintain contacts with people as to who you could actually approach, whether there are strict corporate limitations. We're expecting some people may have more issues than others, but we would very much like you to actually join in. The 4th group is where there are people that you are aware of through your own social channels and through social marketing in general, which could be influencers and key opinion leaders which you have contact with. Here we can have a reach out and to engage them as well, so that we can expand the reach that the GAN has. For the alumni to operate, we're planning on having an online platform to actually communicate and work with this. There are some different options and there's some technical restrictions that we will have based on national networks as well. But the general idea is to make sure that we can actually correspond easily, we can share what we're after, we can actually advise as to what is going on in real time, and most of all, we can share pieces of content back and forth so it's ready for use and final point of delivery. The Secretariat at this end will go around and manage who is actually in charge of the alumni and its members based on some criteria which we have defined for membership purposes. We will go around and generally manage the briefings that will actually happen, and making sure that the social aspects of the community are available so that we can move forward and grow the mission of the GAN in a sustainable way. So our final area that we would like from you is to actually check as to what is available within inside your own company. Create an account really on the Playbook website with the links that we will send you, so that you can access the information in real time and give us some feedback. From the list of the global networks we have available, you can check in your own corporate ideas if you are in these different locations, and let us know as to where you could possibly help with events, with content that would be available, have apprentices in that location. Try the video competition, and then feedback as to who out of your own company knowledge that you would recommend for being part of the alumni, so we can run the the outreach from Geneva to make sure that these people are included and we can begin to grow this community as well. So I don't have any more slides and information to actually give you right at the moment. I can now open the mics, and if there are some questions, I'm very happy to discuss these with the group, and we can see where we go. The mic's now open.
Hi, Neil. This is Kathleen coming in.
Hi, Kathleen.
Hi, from the GAN here in Geneva. I'm coming a little bit late, so my apologies for that. I missed the beginning. Just wanted to thank everybody for taking the time to be on this call. First of all, thank you, Neil, for guiding us through this, and you've done fabulous work, you and Accenture, on putting this together. And we're very, very grateful for your engagement and Accenture's fabulous support with this. Just to say that, maybe to reiterate some points, that this is a really fantastic opportunity to join forces on an issue that all of our members have raised is super important to talent acquisition on the one hand, also getting traction on apprenticeships, and that's getting visibility to the issue of apprenticeships, showcasing what you're doing, tackling this issue of the image of apprenticeships, which is unfortunately a barrier, this image of apprenticeships in many countries, from Kenya to India to even here in Switzerland. The image of apprenticeships is not always one that encourages parents to even motivate their children to go into this direction. And through the GAN, we have a really unique opportunity to leverage your brands, to leverage the really amazing, fantastic work that you're doing in this area of work-based learnings and apprenticeships, to showcase this and generate a global discussion on the issue, and get people excited about this alternative career pathway, which in many ways I think is actually not an alternative. It's really the original career pathway. We've kind of gotten diverted from that in some ways, but it's a really fantastic opportunity. So I'd just like to say thanks on the one hand to you, Neil, and to Accenture for the really fantastic work that you've done on this, and thank everybody for the time, and encourage you all to work with us on delivering this campaign, on co-creating this campaign, and help us to also create a meaningful opportunity for this issue, apprenticeships, and for your company, of course, as well, in getting people excited about maybe entering the workforce with you as well as an apprentice. So that's my 2 cents for now.
Hi, it's Lee here from the Adecco Group. It's not necessarily following on from the earlier point. Sorry, it's more a general question, a sort of more practical question around the measures of success, and what do you consider to be the ways in which you would define success of this project? Because obviously one of the elements of communicating this scheme is, of course, it's fairly devolved to us and the separate businesses to activate things in some cases that are quite separate in terms of channels and audiences and so on. It was just really to get your thoughts on KPIs, where you consider to be the critical success factors in your view.
Ali, thanks for the question. What we have defined so far with the objectives of the campaign, we have 3 main measures. These are a number of conversations that will be happening throughout the year to make sure that we are hitting some level of advocacy. There is another measure which is increasing the number of members and partners which are engaged during the campaign to make sure that we actually have a real coverage on the ground. And the third one is one which I can't now remember as what I've come to this. Oh yes, it's the number of video competition entries that we're going for. So we have some tangible metrics to gather from there as a first stage to show that we are making a difference and we are actually hitting some targets that apprenticeship is being talked about, and we are doing something around the stigma from there.
Okay, that's good to know. Noted. Thanks for that. Yeah, it's a useful steer in terms of where we can focus our efforts to help those aims, I guess.
Exactly. So these are covered in a bit more detail inside the playbook. I think you'll be able to see. There is, so if there are any sort of questions about the tactics that we've aligned that follow these as well, we would very much like to hear from you. We are living and growing, but we're trying to work within the limited availability that we have and something that we can measure that was going to make some sense for our main funders and the reporting lines we need to follow. What we are asking for on top of this is also if there are metrics that you specifically need because of your engagement with how we're functioning, let us know so that we can align as to how we can actually report back the numbers we're tracking and what we've actually asked for from our national networks and their own local tracking as well.
And if I could come in quick on that too, as you rightly pointed out, we do have these global metrics, which are largely around engagement, engaging people in a conversation about this issue. Part of the reason we felt that to be so powerful is because there aren't a lot of people talking about apprenticeships and work-based learning programs out there. If we want to get action on this issue, we want to get people to change behavior, change the policy environment, if you will, change the way that they're doing training. It's helpful to get people talking about it, so to thematicize it in one way. So that's one point. The other point is that you might want to have, each company you might want to have your own metrics. So whereas you're contributing in some ways to the global metrics, you might also want to see how many conversations you can get started with your clients, with your target audience as well on this issue. So they're coming back to you and saying, hey, okay, so what are you, Adecco Group or Nestle, doing actually on this issue? Sounds interesting. Tell us more about how you're contributing. So you might have your own metrics. So just a thought.
Great, thank you.
So any other questions? Is everybody surprised by this style of the campaign we've come up with? This has been something that has been in the works for a few weeks, but people have been back and forth, first reviewing and consulting with us if this was actually making some business sense to them as well. We haven't explained it into such a large audience before of members, and it was to feel whether this is a campaign that actually resonates with you.
Yeah, hi, it's Lee again, Neil. I mean, I like it. I mean, it's obviously from my point of view, from the Adecco Group's point of view, we need that flexibility to, utilize our own channels and effort around this topic anyway. And it's good that there's a central theme that we can loop into, and it's great that there's central assets that we can use. So, I mean, I'm happy. I need to just go back to some of the team here to tell them, here's what you're after, and then we'll certainly be clear about what support we can give and when and so on. But from our point of view, yeah, happy to be involved, happy to support. Obviously, I think as we start working through the details, as we start comparing it to the plans we've got over the next few months into next year around generally the topic of apprentices and so on. It'll be easier to see where we have those moments when what you're looking to achieve and what we're looking to achieve align. But so far looks great. So well done. Yeah, it looks like a big effort. So thanks for that.
That's good to hear. Does anybody else from Hilton or UBS have any other points? Okay, well, in the interest of time and not keeping you too late, as we're all busy people, we will end the session here today. And as I mentioned earlier, the invitations for the next sessions will be sent out tomorrow, as well as the survey from this webinar with the recording and access to the deck. So we encourage you to all to join in and be part of our community.
Thank you, Neil.
Yes.
Grateful.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.